and welcome to the pod. I'm your host, Grace, and with us we have Rhona, who's going to teach us all about how to become a dentist. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much, Grace.
So first of all, please, I know that everyone probably thinks they know what that means, but what does being a dentist mean to you? What do you do?
So I think that being a dentist means to me is actually quite intricately tied into my identity. And I think that when you want to become a healthcare professional, because you tend to want to do it from a young age because you've got to get the GCSEs and you've got to get the A levels, etc., it becomes your focus and you study for so many years. So the thing is, for me, I think it's just really part of my identity. It's what I've helped build my whole brand around. You know, I created the Dr Rhona brand. I have my own clinic. So for me, it's my life purpose and I really enjoy it.
Nice. That is a great answer. Well, that leads me quite nicely into the next bit because you're saying you have to study at your GCSEs and everything. So did you always want to be a dentist?
Yeah. So my father is your classic immigrant father who came to the UK with £20 in his pocket and wanted to leave Egypt because the situation wasn't great at the time and was like, do you know what? I'm going to become a doctor because that's what you do. You need the safety and security, especially when you come as an immigrant to a country like the UK. And I was always surrounded by doctors and healthcare professionals, but I really didn't like medicine because I felt like with medicine, it was always treating people when they were sick. We went to go visit my aunt when I was 12 years old in America. And transparently, I actually really liked from a young age how much independence and financial freedom that she also had as a woman.
Nice.
And I really liked the fact that in dentistry, you don't just see people when they're sick. So people come in for routine checkups and you start treating their families. And I really liked that because I was like, I don't think I want to be in an environment where people are always in ailments.
Yeah.
And I don't know, something drew me to it when I was just 12 years old.
Wow. So you always had the dream and you were locked on it from then,
Yes.
really?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's very young time to know what you want to do.
Yeah, I know. People get really shocked by it. But I think it's because I had those healthcare professionals in my my sphere.
Yeah, it kind of reduced it, I guess, with you being it's definitely going to be healthcare, but then it was just picking out of that. It's not every industry.
Yeah.
So you studied, and I'm assuming you go to uni and everything like that?
Yeah, so what happens is that, so you've got to get the GCSEs that are good. So to do, obviously, A-level, so you have to do 2 sciences. And I actually was really good at English, literature, philosophy. And then I knew I was terrible at physics, but I had to do biology and chemistry to be a dentist. I had to get the GCSE grades, which are usually A's or A stars. Then you go. So for A-level, I did English and philosophy, biology and chemistry. And my teachers were like, oh my gosh, Rhona has to go and study English because I was really good at it. I loved theatre, I loved drama, all the greats, Harold Pinter, Shakespeare, all that kind of thing. But then my dad was like, listen, I think it's better for you to go into something that's stable because you can always do these things as a hobby. So got my straight A's for A-level, and then I ended up going to Leeds University, which was 5 years at university, and then you do a 1-year training, so it's 6 years in total. So you do a foundation training year, and then you either stick at the NHS for however long you want, which I did for 8 years. I did actually mixed private and NHS, but some people go straight into private. And then I stopped working in 2019 in the NHS, and I bought my practice in 2020.
Wow. There's a lot to unpack in everything you just said.
Yes.
Just going back to the straight A's for A-levels and stuff, that's got to be really hard work, continuously.
Yeah, so I'm a late diagnosed ADHD, right? So
Okay.
I think a lot of women are quite high functioning with it. You have that classic, I'm a millennial, so when I think of anyone that was diagnosed with ADHD, I think about them climbing up the walls and those really hyperactive boys.
Yes.
And if you had looked at me, now you can see the kind of science is very chatty, I couldn't concentrate, but because I was very focused on being a dentist, I was right, this is it. And because I could hone in on it and revise, and because I was very ambitious, I was able to kind of find something I really liked and just stick at it. So with the A-levels, I just worked really hard. I started studying months in advance before exams, and that's how I did it. And, I went to a private school in London, so some people say, oh, that's great privilege, but it was a very non-academic private school. So it was one of those private schools, I failed my 11 plus, so it was the ones that kind of took in the misfits, if you like.
Got you.
And most of them would end up doing drama, English, or things that were more creative, art, all of those things, fashion. And I was like, no, I want to be a dentist. So I knew that I had to work really, really hard, and the teachers were good. So I just worked really closely with the teachers because my parents were not hands-on. They couldn't be. They were working full-time to keep us in a good school. And that's how I did it, really.
It's very, very impressive. I think it's probably a bit better knowing you have that vision, but I still think even at that age, because A-levels are hard. I found them so hard. So like,
yeah, I think so. But the thing is that I think as well, like gifts come in so many different ways. Like you're a podcast host now, right? And you, amongst all the other things that you do, you're clearly a creative. And I feel like the educational system is not really fit for purpose anymore, because like how are we still learning the stuff that our parents learned and the generations before that?
Yeah.
But I think that when it comes to professions, like whether you want to be a doctor, a lawyer, or a dentist, that's when you do need a rigorous structure, right? Because you need to know the people that are like let loose on your body are doing the right thing, right? So that's where I think you need a curriculum. But then with the other subjects or other professions, I just feel like the school system doesn't necessarily fit that.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. I think that's something that so needs to be looked into, but it's also such a mammoth task, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, because everyone's so different. And like no one's at school telling you to be a podcast host. Like it's strange.
Now there is, I think there's like university degrees coming out, I think, for you podcasting. Yeah.
Really?
I'm pretty sure there's like you can do a podcast degree.
That's very impressive.
Yeah.
I like that.
And I think there is a skill to it now, right? Like it's I even think social media, there's like people create like creator colleges and stuff like that, because I think there is stuff to learn. It's not something you can just blag if you want to be successful at it.
Yeah, I totally agree. And there's so much to learn and it keeps changing.
Yeah, exactly.
So you graduated uni and you went into the NHS. Now, does everybody do that?
Some people don't, but I felt like it was really important to do so, because I think that, you know, the NHS is an incredible, it obviously is a system that struggles, but it's also an incredible thing to offer to people. And I think that once, like, the NHS has also helped invest in your career, because obviously they help with the training, etc. Like, I do feel like you should give back.
Oh, nice.
So for me, it was really important. But unfortunately, like most dentists, I ended up leaving because the system is not fit for purpose, because of the way that the fee structure works, the fact that you don't have enough resources, that you can't spend enough time with patients. It's similar to the GPs, right? You've only got X amount of time for your checkups. You have to hit targets.
Yeah.
It becomes a numbers game. And I just felt like it wasn't aligned with why I was meant to do dentistry.
Wow, that's like something I guess that you had to experience to figure that out, because even now people moan about the NHS or you can't get an appointment or all this kind of thing. So it's like it doesn't seem like something is right and it's driving more people to go private. What was the biggest change for you when you did go private from NHS?
I think it was the time that I could spend and the kind of dentistry that I could do, because what I realized, I dabbled with a lot of different things. So I was like, postgraduate training, I was like, right, do I want to do this? Do I want to do this? Do I want to do that? And I think from my perspective, I realized that cosmetic dentistry was the most life-changing thing, because I went on this course, I remember it like it was yesterday, and all the case studies, people's lives changed transformatively. So like they were able to do like apply for jobs that they never had the confidence to apply for. They were able to go out on dates with people, go on dating apps, you know, things like that.
Wow.
And I suddenly thought, well, that's the kind of dentistry that I want to do, because you're not having people coming and being like, I hate the dentist, you guys are greedy, you cause this, because dentistry has one of the highest suicide rates of any profession, And the reason is because, well, they've done studies into it, they don't know the specific reason, but one of the reasons is also constantly being told that you're hated and the idea that you're like inflicting pain. But what I find is now, especially with the cosmetic dentistry that I do, is people want to come, like people like to be where they want something, not because they feel they need something, right? It's the same thing like when you're sick, like no one enjoys a vaccine or like having something invasive, you know, when you end up in A&E, but you know, you have to get it done.
Yeah.
So I think that with cosmetic dentistry, what I realized was it was like so transformative for people. That's something on the NHS, like you don't do elective cosmetic treatment for people really.
Yep.
And it's the time spent, like I felt like I could just make the rules. And for me, was like the type of dentistry I wanted to practice.
I love that. I haven't actually thought about that with like people choosing to come. It must be such a different experience for you who's even doing it, like someone that wants to be there.
Yeah.
Because I don't know many people that ever say they want to go to the dentist. I feel like it has a really bad rap.
It has a terrible rep, but I think, you know, the thing is like I've always got these videos where people are like, it's the best money that I ever spent. You know, I had this amazing patient 2 days ago and she's about 50 and she's like had 4 children. She's like, I wanted to do something for myself. So she had this huge smile makeover, was hesitant about it, and now said it's been one of the most transformative things for her confidence, and that she feels amazing and she gets loads of compliments. And I think, you know, that's really like invaluable in a way. And I think that, you know, people then enjoy, like they don't enjoy the process, because anything that's cosmetic can be a bit uncomfortable, but then they're like, it was worthwhile.
Yeah, it was meant to be.
Yeah.
Like, that's going to change her life now. I mean, I'm such a big supporter in being like, invest in yourself. Like, you have to live with this forever. So that's the best investment you can do.
Yeah, 100%.
So when you've done the NHS and you've done the private, you're opening your own clinic. So where's this clinic?
So if we rewind a little bit, after VT, so what happened was, I actually realized I was a misfit at dental school. So even though I got the grades, I actually did not get on very well with dentists. And I found it really hard to find a community, because I naturally gravitated towards the people that did like journalism, art, politics. I'd always been somebody that was interested in the arts and very creative. So the girls that I lived with were not the dentists, and dentists tend to live with each other, and same with the medics, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, nope, I'm not doing that. So I went to like halls, and then because their degrees were only 3 years, I ended up having to live with dentists only in my final year, because then I made friends with other people. And I feel like no one really understood me at dental school, and that included like the professors and the tutors and everything. So when you've finished your exams, you apply for something called vocational training, which is like your NHS year, and there's all regions. And I was like, I'm done with up north. I don't want to stay here. I want to go back down south. So I decided to go back down to, I didn't want to go to London. I wanted to still be a bit outside to get a better experience. I actually applied to Kent, Surrey, Sussex. So you kind of apply to that. And I did not get any VT offers. I go to all these interviews. I thought that I presented myself well enough. I had the grades, I had the accolades. Why aren't you giving me a job? And I genuinely feel that there was like this medical bias of like how a dentist or a doctor should look or be.
Really?
And I think being a woman that takes up space was like, you need to be the cookie cutter, I'll do and say anything dentist. So, and I had that problem getting into dental school as well. I eventually got to this practice in Kent. It was really nice, but it was like your drill, fill, pay the bill sort of practice. And I was like, no, there must be more to life. Went on and did the cosmetic course. I built a portfolio, started CV dropping all over London without even like applying for jobs. And eventually, after a year of CV dropping, practice in High Street, Kensington, it was mixed NHS and private, said, can you take over somebody's maternity leave? So I was like, fine, let's do this. So I went, made a huge effort in the interview, and they gave me a chance. And I decided to create a lot of value in the practice. So they had a lot of private potential. So the private potential is that because it was an affluent area, even if you came as an NHS client, you would still invest in things cosmetically, whether it's Invisalign or whitening or, you know, these things that aren't covered by the NHS.
Yeah.
So initially my boss was like, what's she doing? And I was like, no, like I'm helping people see the value in their smile, and if they want to invest, they can. In parallel to that, it was also opposite the Daily Mail and loads of other journalist buildings. So whenever a journalist would come in, I would pitch them stories, and they're like, love you, Rhona, but sorry, no one's going to write about dentistry. Like you said, like what is, like people only write about botched stories.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, definitely.
And I was like, you know what? This is an idea that I'm going to give you. So I slowly built these relationships and started building like a PR profile without a PR agency at the beginning. My boss was trying to sell his practice in Chelsea at the time, and he was like, it's changed hands loads of times. I can't make it work. I'm going to focus on the High Street Kensington practice. So I said to him, no, I'm going to come in Chelsea and see if I can make it work.
Yeah.
He was like, you're mental, because dentists are self-employed, right? So I was taking a huge like plunge in my earnings because I wanted to split my time between Kensington and Chelsea. So I started working at Chelsea. I became really good friends with his daughter, who was practice manager. And I was like, we're going to try this, this, and this. And I say it was like the 3 I's that changed the business. So it was Invisalign, Instagram, and influencers, right? So it was the embryonic stages of Instagram. And with Instagram, no one was using it for dentistry. So I was like, why are people using it for fitness and food? Do you remember back in the day when people were just like taking photos of like
Every
meals?
day, yeah, all the time.
And I was like, I'm going to be like a dental influencer. And I started posting, and in parallel to that, a agency had managed to call the clinic and said, oh, we've got a couple of influencers. I didn't know what influencer marketing was. I was like, I have no idea what this is. A girl from Towie called Lydia Bright had come in. She had a really good experience, was like, yeah, like I'm not going to pay for the treatment. So I actually paid for her treatment from my own pocket. And then when she started posting, it was crazy. The inquiries started coming in, and I was like, okay, this is mad. This is like a different word of mouth.
Yeah.
And then I also got approached by Melissa's Wardrobe, who was really transformational for my business as well. So when she came in, she did like a part collab, so she covered some costs. I was fully booked for like 6 months to a year.
Wow.
Like the phone was off the Richter scale. So at that point, I said to my boss at the time, I want to buy the clinic. Like, I've built it up now. Like, I am the business, you know. And so we negotiated for about 1.5 years. And then when we agreed and it was all going through, completed buying a week before national lockdown in 2020.
Oh my God.
But that was when I left the NHS.
Yes, that is a wild story.
Yeah.
And you just started your own clinic for the first time. That must have been scary in itself. But what did you do, like, when you knew it was going to go to lockdown? You just have to...
I think like anything, like with lockdown, I mean, I don't know what you decided to do during lockdown, but I think you have no choice but to pivot and adapt. Like, we didn't know what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And I was really angry with the government because I was like, why are dentists shut? Like, it's definitely an essential need. And also, like, the NHS were getting inundated with like dental pain because doctors can't deal with dental pain.
Yeah.
You know? So luckily, after 3 months, they opened us up. But during that time, I took everything online. So I would do live every day. I'd pair up with my influencers.
Well done.
We do, and then I was doing online consultations. And if they decided to go ahead with treatment, we'd take like a deposit. So they were ready for when the doors opened. And when the doors opened, it was amazing. And what dentists found, it was our best years.
Wow.
For business.
That's
because
wild.
Everyone hated looking at themselves as the Zoom boom because everyone was like, I hate my teeth.
Yeah.
They're yellow. They're crooked. I'm going to spend my furlough money on this. You know, that's what happens.
That is such an amazing example of how to be like adaptable and flexible.
Yeah.
Like, how do you do online consultations? That's wild.
So I'd get people to tell me what they dislike about their smile, because I think one of the most important things is, especially when you work in aesthetics, do never tell people what you think they should get done.
Right.
Let the patient tell you what they dislike, and if they are being harsh on themselves, you've got a duty to tell them, or you can say to them, this is how I can help you. So if someone was like, listen, I feel like I've got crooked teeth, I've never had braces, or I did have braces and they've moved, I'd be like, okay, these are your braces options. We could do Invisalign, we could do fixed braces, whatever you want. And then if they're like, yeah, I'm keen, I said, pending that you've got a healthy mouth, that's what we can do. So that's how you do the consultation. They'd send you photos, you ask them loads of questions, and you kind of gauge what they might need and go through the options.
It's super impressive. And I think that's actually such a good point, because I remember like when you look at yourself so much in the camera and then it's like, I need to change something anyway next time.
Yeah.
When you went back, just going back, when you said that dentists are self-employed, is that all dentists? Yes. Really?
Majority. So the way that it's always worked is they take up a bit like hairdressers, right?
Yeah.
So they take a percentage. So say you decide to come and work for me, I would take 55% or 50% of your earnings, but I would provide you the nurse, the rent, and the materials and the patients. Does that make sense? So that's how it works. And then you split some costs, like lab costs or credit card fees, and that's how it works.
Wow, I had no idea.
Yeah.
So you have to do like all your own taxes and everything like that, like a normal.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So they'd have to become like, usually most dentists like become a limited company, even if they work for somebody else, and they would deal with their own taxes and everything like that. And then I have my employed staff as well, but that's the receptionists and the nurses, etc.
That is impressive. So you've grown the clinic, and how's that been from just starting it, that scary moment, to what it is now? What's been like the best part of that?
So I think that I always knew that financial freedom, especially as a woman, was going to be one of the most important things for me in life. And I'm really glad that the conversation has like resurfaced, because I think we went through this boss girl era, and then we went through like this soft girl area, just like get married and be well kept. And now we're having like a rise again, being like, no, you need financial independence. So I'm glad to see that like it's going through those waves. But I always knew that I wanted to have something that whatever situation I am in life, I can bail myself out, essentially. And when I first started working for this practice, there was a 2-surgery practice, and now it's a 5-surgery practice. Wow. So I expanded it slowly. Like I had a massive refurb. We built downstairs into the basements. There was a basement that was just rubble. So we built like extra rooms. I started employing like loads of specialists. And listen, like businesses are hard. Like people glamorize like the founder life, and it's just not that easy. Yeah. So it's been a roller coaster. But I think that when you really care about something, it's also really enjoyable. But there's also, I think, the mistake that people make is it's so intrinsically tied to their identity. You know, like Chelsea Dental Clinic is like my whole life, but I have to remember that Chelsea Dental Clinic is what it is because of me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I
Yeah.
think like with anything that we do, like even with you in the podcast, you know, it's not like the podcast, of course, is such a big part of you now.
Yeah.
But you're still the person that created it. So if you want to create something else, you still can do that too.
Yeah, that is nice. I've never really thought about that, but that is a very good point.
Yeah.
I think it must be fun as well to see something that, like, because you did take a risk. You built that up for someone else technically because it was his clinic. And then to take it over yourself, you never knew how that was going to go. And you just put everything into it. This is probably a question you get a lot, but like, have you seen, like, going in people's mouths is very, very niche, I think. Not everyone could do it. Have you seen like really terrible things and been like, I don't know what to do? Or are you trained for everything?
I think the thing is that you can never say that you're trained for everything because things are a constant learning curve. Like I have a multi-specialist team. So if I need to refer, I will. If I need second opinions, I will. And obviously, like, even if you've planned things really well, sometimes you might be surprised. You know, I had a patient, like, I've been doing veneers for years, which is like the thing that I love to do. And I have a patient that has an autoimmune condition, but it was like not diagnosed at the time. And I can see that her veneers, they're still fine, but they haven't done as well as someone else's because, and I'm like, oh, that's new. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
But in medicine, you're constantly learning. Like, did you ever read the book Black Box Thinking?
No, but maybe I should.
You really should, because it was basically about how the medical industry is flawed in a way. And it talks about how, I think it's his wife that passed away because of what he believed were failings within the medical system that could have been learnt from. And he talks about how like different pilots and aviation is, and how like when you audit yourself in like aviation, it's so strict, and in medicine it is strict, but it's like because of the human error that is really cumulative, people also find it difficult to kind of like admit and see their own errors, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely.
You know? So he does like really good things, like to call black box thinking, that we should apply it to medicine as well. And I always think about that because there are so many cumulative things that can lead to the actual event going right or wrong.
Yeah.
And I think that in medicine you do learn that, like you can plan, but it's so multifactorial as well.
Yeah, that's like an excellent point, because I think I always think about this with the medical side of things, and even like vets and things. I'm like, everything is always evolving and changing. I can't imagine how scary it must be to have someone come in, put all this trust in you and be like, I'm not 100% on how to react to this.
Yeah.
So do you have like a huge career highlight from like the whole time you've been a dentist?
So I think like recently, about 2 weeks ago, I actually got awarded a medal at Parliament.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. And for me, that was a really big moment because it was for the recognition of like contribution in medicine, but with creative. And I feel like that's what really speaks to my soul, because being a misfit in science is because I am a creative. And I feel like I still get that now, where I'm like straddling these two lanes between science and art.
Yes.
And I feel like that recognition was so important for me, because putting yourself out there on social media is really scary. But, you know, I always had a vision to change the public's perception of dentistry and to get that recognition, because it was recognizing that I've used my creative to help educate and like influence the masses, because there's only so many people you can influence in your clinic. Yeah. That was like a really huge moment for me.
That is huge. And to be able to find a way to do the science and the creative is very rare. So to be able to pull that together is incredibly impressive.
Yeah, thank you.
And that's hopefully something you're teaching other people as well. Like, you don't have to stick to one lane.
Yeah, 100%.
There's ways to adapt.
100%.
If somebody wanted to be a dentist, what would your advice for them be?
Think about it really carefully, because dentistry is an incredibly fulfilling career, but it also is an incredibly intense career. And I think you should do it for the right reasons, because unfortunately, people are going into it for the wrong reasons now. I think the age of social media has glamorized it. So like, for example, people that come out straight out of dental school, they're like, I want to be a dentist because I want to do cosmetic dentistry. I want to do these amazing cases. But they forget that, like, I'm 16 years qualified. Yeah. And they're comparing things like, you've got to go and learn the basics. Learn the disease. Yeah. Learn the disease. Like, it is about the patient, not the profit. And you have to do it for the right reasons. And I think that's the sad thing about social media. Like, people want this overnight success and don't realize it takes years and years, especially for dentistry, like you said, and medicine. Plastic surgeons take like 20 years to qualify or something, because it's so intense. And some specialties in dentistry take that long as well. So I think like really understand why you're doing it and recognize that it's not glamorous. And like, are you willing to put your mental health and your patients above everything else? Because I'm just starting to find the balance now, and it's taken me 16 years, you know?
Yeah,
so it's
wild.
not something you can take lightly.
100%. I think also people do look at dentistry and see it, I think you just like touched on it there, as that you earn a lot of money from it. And is that the case, or is that something that comes with time?
I think with anything, it comes with time. Like dentistry is obviously not a profession that's like as well paid, for example, as they are in America, but just because of the way that the landscape is. And also it depends on what kind of dentist you are. Dentistry is a profession that will give you financial freedom, but I'm also like afraid of sugarcoating around it, like especially as a woman. Like why should we say that we're in a profession because it doesn't reward us financially? Because at the end of the day, the financial reward is about the value, and I've decided I value the work I do and I value myself. And I remember I was getting berated online recently, as one of many dentists, because there was this problem of people going abroad. So there's people going abroad and getting like turkey teeth done, and every time it went wrong, people would be like, if the British dentists weren't so greedy, this would never happen. You guys are greedy, you're overcharging. So they want us to charge the same prices as like dental tourism in Turkey, for example. But I'm like, the conversation is way more nuanced than that, because first of all, to be a dentist in the UK, once you've paid indemnity, once you've paid for like the courses, the rent, the nurses, etc., like depending on where you are in London, but let's just say, I'm putting out a random number out there, but say you're like a high-end dentist, I don't know, Knightsbridge, the running costs of the clinic could be like 500k to £1 million. So you have to charge accordingly for your patient. And also, if you're not a conveyor belt and you're seeing 5 patients because you're giving them your time and the best materials, that's what they pay for. Now, obviously, that like is not across the board, and you've got some really bad dentists in the UK, but it's the same with Turkey. The amazing dentists in Turkey are the same price as the ones here. Do you see what I mean?
Definitely.
So I think it's like the public's conception, and I just said, at the end of the day, you can go to whatever dentist you want. Like some people don't want McDonald's, you know, and those conveyor belt practices are like McDonald's, you know. So I'm not embarrassed or afraid anymore to say, you know, this is where I sit. I think like I'm in the reasonable scale, but I value the work that I do, and so do my patients that come to me.
100%. That's such a good way of putting it, and I think that's something that people should really consider, because it's easy to be like, it's all your guys' fault or it's everyone else's fault, but it's like, you should value your work, and you've trained for so long for it, and we'd want you to be the best you can be, because like you said, it's a very trusting thing to, you know, it's your body, it's your health.
The other thing I want to add in there's a difference between elective cosmetic and functional health, right? So like if people are in severe pain, I definitely think the system in the UK or anywhere else in the world needs to be improved, because people should not be in pain, right? But also, most dental diseases are preventable, so money should be poured into prevention, and also incentivize the public to look after their teeth. Like they've got schemes like that in Germany and Switzerland, like if you look after your teeth, you go to the dentist, like you basically get rewarded by the government essentially, and people don't have less problems. But then when it comes to the elective stuff like veneers, bonding, Invisalign and things, you don't need it, right? So you can't start forcing the healthcare professional to kind of meet your cosmetic needs if it's something that's not debilitating.
Absolutely, completely agree. Do you have a big dream, a big goal for the future? Because you've come so far and you have your own practice, which I think would be far in people's goals. So what do you want to achieve?
So there is like a couple of things, but I just wanted to mention that I'm also a co-founder of an oral care brand. So in 2020, when I bought the practice, I also launched an oral care brand with 2 co-founders.
Nice.
Parla, it's actually, here's the logo.
Love.
And it's actually a sustainable oral care brand. So when we actually did research into the market, we found out that most toothpaste tubes take 500 years to decompose, which means every single toothpaste tube you and I have ever used exists somewhere on the planet. And we also found there's loads of toxic ingredients and harmful stuff. So we actually created toothpaste tablets, and we were on Dragon's Den.
Wow.
Yeah. So you take the tablet, you chew on it, you use the water, and it converts into a paste in your mouth.
Oh my God.
And we got offers from 2 Dragons. We turned it down. We went on to go and still are on some of the major supermarkets, so Waitrose, Sainsbury's, Boots, all those things. And then we pivoted as well about a year ago, where we created toothpaste as well, but we didn't want to greenwash anyone. So we did it like totally made out of aluminium from like top to bottom. And It was really great, and it was also ingredient led, which I'm really passionate about as a woman, because I'm like, you should care about what you're putting into your mouth every day, which is the most absorbent part of your body. And we have an oral microbiome one, which basically helps the microbiome just like the gut, and we've also got one that helps protect enamel and whitens the teeth. So there's all this stuff, so really passionate about that. So I'd really love to see the majority of the public converts to our product. Like, that's definitely blue sky thinking. We'd love people to do that. And then the other thing is that I think that maybe I'd like to have a couple of other practices and do something like that. But I know it sounds, I really hope it like doesn't sound awful or narcissistic or anything like that, but I just really want people to remember that I did make a difference in the dental industry. And I think that's why most of us do the stuff that we do and put stuff out there, because I make a difference to my patients in the clinic, but now I want to go beyond and impact the public in some way.
I think that's an excellent dream. And I have no doubt that you'll do it. I think that's so impressive. And I can't wait to check out the product. I have no idea.
I might actually have one for you, so I'm going to give it to you.
Yeah. That's so good. Well, thank you so much. That was really informative. And I love like your views, especially on like the financial freedom for women and everything like that. That was really good. So thank you.
No, thank you for having me. I'm very excited.
Thank you for watching How to Become A. Please like and subscribe and share with everybody you know, so we can continue to interview many different industries and share their stories with you. Thank you so much for the support.